My name is Carrie Fraser, and I'm the moderator, and you're here to hear Simon Salt, Social Location Marketing. He's the founder and CEO of Ink Slingers. He's from Texas, via England, and he's known to wear a kilt. He has published Social Location Marketing, and just out is Shorty's Guide to Mobile Marketing. He's got a blog, The Ink Slinger, and he teaches advanced mobile marketing. Simon Salt.
Thank you. And as you may know, I'm not wearing the kilt today. I was specifically asked not to bring it to Canada. I don't know why. Customs or something. Maybe it's your customs. So how many of you have checked in at this location today? Wow, look at it. Overwhelming numbers of people that are using location. I'm so pleased. I'm going to talk to you about social location marketing. First, I want to frame that and in terms of what it means. You'll hear two terms in this industry. One is location-based services, or LBS. The other is social location marketing. The reason I differentiate between the two, location-based services is anything that discloses the location of a device or a person holding the device. So, for example, do we have any outdoorsy type people here? I mean, I know this place isn't really suited to that at all, is it? So how many of you use GPS when you're out? Okay, great. So GPS is a location service, and it's a passive location service. Other than turning the device on, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to press buttons or fire up apps, unless you're using it on a phone, to actually share your location. Personal locator beacons. Anybody use a personal locator beacon? Any of the outdoorsy people? Okay. Personal locator beacons are used by people who go off extreme hiking in case they get in trouble. The only time that shares a location is when it's activated. But it is a location-based service. Not a lot of room for marketing there, you know. If you fall off the side of a mountain, you're probably not interested in a brand message about a new pick. Probably not the right time. So the difference I see is active versus passive. And as marketers, what we're interested in is the active sharers. Those people who have chosen, either by clicking a tick box or by firing up an app and checking in somewhere, to share their location. And in particular, and obviously of interest to marketers, our location. Be it a conference center, be it a retail environment, be it a restaurant or a hotel. That's what we're looking for. So that's social location and social location marketing, as already introduced. This is me. Simon@theinkslingers.com is my email address. I am @inkslinger on pretty much every social site. And obviously, in particular, Twitter. I do reply to my emails. I will reply if you DM me or @ me on Twitter. I'm not standoffish. So if you have questions after this, or wake up tomorrow and go, damn, why didn't I ask that? Feel free. Anybody here do Psych 101 in college? Don't be shy. It's okay. I think most people. Anybody enjoy it? A few of us. Good. Excellent. So most of you will recognize at least one half of this pyramid. It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And what I did was, so I should explain, I'm a behavioral science major. I majored in anthropology, and I loved it, and I still do. So what I did is I took Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and I applied this to the social consumer, because that's who we're now dealing with as digital marketers. We have moved beyond the original paradigm of marketing to a regular consumer. We're now marketing to the social consumer. And the difference between the two is the traditional consumer came bearing something that they were going to exchange for whatever product or service you were offering. We simplified the system, and now we use money. So I will give you X amount in return for whatever product or service you are offering. The social consumer wants more. They've changed the paradigm. What they want is, I will offer you money in return for a product or service. I will also offer you the opportunity to leverage my social capital to benefit your brand. So I also want something in exchange for that. I want you to do something for me as the consumer. So we often hear this phrase, it's social media. But that's what it means, is that social consumer is going to trade with you for their social capital, just in the way that they will trade with you for their physical capital, their currency. They have something else to bring to the exchange. So at the very base of those set of needs, Maslow highlighted air, food, water, sleep, physiological. From the social consumer perspective, that's the environment you're in. So if you think about it, I do a lot of traveling. And when I go to a hotel, there are some major things that I look for. First is, I look to see if the room's clean. That's a physiological need. I want to know that the environment I'm sleeping in is clean. I also look for a comfy bed. I look for good water pressure. And I look for free Wi-Fi. Those are all environmental needs for me as the social consumer to enjoy my experience. If I go to an environment and any one of those is missing, I will talk about it online. Because that's where social consumers discuss their issues. They don't call the 1-800 number. They don't fill out the little report card in the hotel room. They take it to Twitter. Or they take it to Facebook. Or somewhere else to share. They'll post a picture of that grotty towel in the bathroom on Instagram. So this is what we're dealing with as marketers. Safety. We've had some recent issues with car manufacturers experiencing social consumers very unhappy with the safety record, like failing brakes on cars. Not a great experience. What happened with that situation, and the reason it didn't become a major social PR crisis, was that the brand reached out using social channels and said, we value you as a customer. We want you as a customer, and we recognize that we have broken the trust level at one of your most basic needs, which is you need to know that our product is safe for you and your family. So we will stand by our product and we will put this right. And the consumers believed them. And because the actions matched the words, the crisis went away. But that was a major need, major one of the psychological needs for the social consumer. After those basic needs have been met, we get to the more social crux. And the first of those is community. So how many of you here belong to some kind of online community? Okay, so most of the people here. I would hazard a guess that a lot of those online communities are based around some kind of interest. How many of you are in some form of interest community? Yeah, most of the same people. It's what we do as human beings. We group around commonalities. We like people like us. It's how we kind of distinguish those people we'll friend on Facebook, and also those people we decide after a while to unfriend. It's how we pick followers and how we deselect followers. If these people aren't very close to us, we don't want to associate with them. So we form communities. Some of them are long-term communities. Some of them may be shorter-term communities. But that sense of belonging is how brands tap in to the social consumer's sense of community. They want to feel identified with something good, positive, that is like them, and puts them in a group with other people like them. So building a community, and we talk about this all the time in social, but people don't necessarily understand the basic mechanics. We talk about community managers. This is their role. This is what they do. They engender that feeling of community amongst the social consumer such that they want to have brand affinity. Then we talk about esteem. So who here has somebody that they pick up the phone and call when their tech goes on the fritz? Yeah, I do too. We all have that guy. Yeah, I don't know. It's got the little spinny thing. I don't know what that means. What do you mean, what was I doing? I was using the mouse thing. And I clicked it, and now it's just spinning. Well, tell me what to do. Yeah, we've all got that guy. In fact, sometimes I'm that guy for some people, which is really worrying for them. And because if they're calling me to fix it, they've really come to the end of their line of people. But we all have that guy. And in some ways, as part of our community, we want to be that guy. We want to have that sense of self-esteem, that sense of self-worth that makes us valuable to our community. Whether that community is as small as 4 or 5 people in our family or the community here in Victoria. We want to be that guy. If I were to say Gary Vaynerchuk, who would know what is Gary Vaynerchuk famous for? Wine. Wine and the internet. He is on the internet, that guy for wine. He turned it into a multi-million-dollar business, being that guy. But that's how he did it. He became synonymous with advice that the average person in the community of YouTube viewers could turn to for advice on wine. Ultimately, what he did was took it to the point of self-actualization. He reached the pinnacle of it. He is now synonymous with internet and wine and videos. He's that guy to the point where he achieved what we might jokingly refer to as internet fame, internet celebrity, which for some social consumers is exactly what they're trying to do. So we see things like social scoring systems like Klout that gives us some kind of feedback about how we're doing on our ladder, how we're doing on our climb up that community ranking of are we achieving that guy status. They've even brought in topics so that you can be the most popular person around a certain topic. Some of those topics are a bit on the odd side, when you suddenly find that you're considered to be an expert or an influencer in McDonald's and you're a vegetarian. I always thought those were a bit odd, but they happen. But that's what we're trying to do, and that's what the social consumer is trying to do, and that's how brands can engage with them. You've got to understand that engaging with social consumers is about helping them achieve their aims, not helping you achieve your aims. So that's where you're going. So understanding this hierarchy and understanding the point at which that social consumer is engaging with you helps you. So what's that got to do with location? What it's got to do with location is, and how many people are familiar with Foursquare? Okay, most of you. Path? Any Path users? A couple of Path users. Yelp? I think they're actually here today. Gold Run? Nobody's heard of Gold Run. Such a shame. It's my favorite. Anybody heard of Twitter? Okay, good. Actually, some people put their hands up. I love that. Facebook? Right, these are all social properties, obviously. What you might not realize that they have in common is they're also location sharing properties. Every one of these you can share your location with, and people do. So Foursquare we think of as the social location tool because, that's what it's designed to do. And in fact, we just saw a big update for it this week where they're actually moving away from that. They're moving away from social location sharing to social location discovery, where it's much more about, my backup summary. That's interesting. Let's see if we can get rid of that. Where it's much more about who are you near, what are you near, and how will that benefit your experience. Path went a different route, so you can share your location with Path, but they also have an Instagram-type camera app built in. You can tell people what music you're listening to. You can tell people what you're thinking. Not always a good choice. And one of the ones I really like that's kind of an odd feature of it, you can tell people when you're awake and when you go to sleep. And if you do both, if you tell it at night you went to sleep, and then you tell it in the morning you've woken up, it tells you how long you were asleep and whether that was a good rest or not. I love that idea. It doesn't really help, of course, if you keep waking up in the night like I do in hotel rooms and wondering where I am. But this is where people are sharing. So they're sharing their location, but every one of these, with the exception of Yelp and Gold Run, allows you to also share pictures. And pictures are moments in time. So if you're having a good experience, or if you're having a bad experience, a photo captures that. And that's great for you as a user, but that can be disastrous for you as a business. So these tools now give what I refer to as a heat factor to a review. So before, if you think about it, if you went out for a meal at a restaurant and you had a bad experience, it was bad service, or the food wasn't great, or the steak wasn't cooked, whatever it was, you might complain to the waitstaff, but maybe you're not that kind of person. Maybe you're not the kind of person who sends it back. But you know what you're going to tell your friends and your family? But it might be a day, a week, a month before it comes up in topic. The heat of the moment has dissipated. You're not as angry as you were at the time. But now with these tools, you're angry. Right here, right now, sitting at the table, and you can take a picture of that undercooked steak or that fly in your soup or whatever it is, and you can post that straight away. And that's got the full heat of the moment. There is no waiting. And if it's a review site like Yelp, where they do make you pause, but you can write the review and post it later, you're not going to edit it. You just go home and post. And now that establishment has to deal with the full heat of that moment rather than the dissipated heat of disgruntled. Now they've got angry. So as brands, as marketers, this is an incredibly different situation for us to be in with the social consumer. Having access to this kind of mobile tool, totally different for them. So who's using what? Very recently, in fact, last month, I did a survey with a company called Qualtrics, who are one of the leaders in the US of market research. And they gave me access to their US general population. And so I apologize, these numbers are for the US. I do recognize that Canada is not a state. And they gave me access to their general US population. We asked some questions about their mobile use. And we had just over 1,000 respondents. And this is what platforms people are sharing their location with. So 55% of women share their location with Facebook, 54% of men, so kind of about the same. 14% of women share their location via Twitter, and 25% of men do. 5% Foursquare women share their location, and 9% of men. And Path is still an emerging tool for a lot of people. So if we take those, what's the major difference between this two set of numbers and this two set of numbers, and why the disparity? Anybody want to hazard a guess? More community, yeah, you know the network, so that's definitely part of it. The other is, these are settings in your account. These are active. You have to turn the app on and press a button to share your location. I would hazard a guess that a large chunk of these people don't even know that they've turned location on in their privacy settings in Facebook, because it's default to on. You have to go in and turn it off. Same with Twitter. You can set it to on or off. Once you set it on, and it can be done simply because Twitter prompts you via the browser to do it, you forget to turn it off again. So are these people actually sharing their location with you? Well, they are, but they're not doing it actively. So they're doing it and it's attached to a status update or it's attached to a tweet. The thing is, from a consumer perspective, yeah, that might be a bit of a privacy concern, but from a marketer's perspective, it's joyful. We now know if somebody is tweeting from our restaurant, our hotel, from wherever they are, we know where that tweet came from, we know the time of day, and we know the user. If we go to the user's profile, we can follow the links that they've put in their bio. Maybe it goes to a website, we can maybe find their email address. There's a whole ton of social CRM data we can now harvest. And they may never have used a reference to our particular Twitter account. They may have used a hashtag or some other kind of reference that we're searching for via our tools. The same goes for Facebook. If people are using status updates and they're at a location, and your location on Facebook has a Facebook page, Facebook does that really awesome thing and ties the two things together so that it goes back to your community page. So if you're a business on Facebook, make sure that you not only have a Facebook page, but you actually have an active community page. They're called community pages. And that's what a reference, so if somebody types, I'm at the Victoria Conference Centre, it doesn't tag your business page. It tags your community page, unless you change it as the admin manager. So make sure that if you own a business, or you run a business, or you're a marketer for a business, that you've actually claimed those and you've updated them, because you will get tags. So the actual process. What are we looking at when people check in as businesses, and where are the opportunities? So really there's 3 stages. You've got the actual check-in, you've got the experience, and then you've got the post-experience sharing. Okay, so if you think about it, you've got 3 clearly different stages, and those 3 stages are your 3 opportunities as marketers to engage with the consumer. The check-in is not where the engagement stops. And I've seen so many campaigns designed this way, where it's, check in and we'll do this. That's the end. You've just closed the gate. What you want is to make that the start of the engagement, not the end of the engagement. The check-in needs motivation. So simply having a Foursquare window cling, not much of a motivation. Why am I going to check in here? What's different about this location that I would want to tell my network that I'm here? What are you giving me in the way of motivation? And remember that, for example, let's walk through a scenario. I arrive at a restaurant. What happens when I arrive at the restaurant? Well, the first thing that happens is somebody asks me how many people are in my party. The next thing they ask me is if I want inside or outside. The next thing they're doing is they're taking me to the table, and they bring me water, and then they want to know what I want to drink. And then they're giving me menus, and have I had a chance to look at the menu yet? And would I like to hear the day's specials? And all of that's going on while I'm trying to look down at my screen and find the app and fire it up, and then find the location that I'm at from a list, and then click check in. So you're competing with yourself in that kind of setting. And we do that as businesses. We compete with our own campaign. So we may have a really cool Foursquare campaign going on, but we've set up our environment to compete with it. So we're not enabling the consumer to take advantage of this great campaign. So if you're going to do social location, think about your location. Does your location actually lend itself to a mobile user engaging? Is your building, whatever it is your building consists of, is it built like a Faraday cage? Do you get really bad cell signal? That's great. That's a great way to turn a mobile user off. If you do, provide them with free Wi-Fi. Give them the tools they need to actually engage with you. Don't expect them to just do all the work for you. Even if you're giving a great giveaway or whatever the campaign motivator is. I have seen more campaigns fail because the point of action failed than any other reason. One of the first big brands to do social location was Starbucks. They worked very closely with Foursquare. They put in a lot of thought into how their campaign was going to run. They thought a lot about the visuals and the creatives. They thought about how they were going to roll it out, how they were going to do the PR and the media outreach, even how they were going to do the blogger outreach. Got all the bases covered. The one person they didn't do any outreach to was the baristas. Nobody at the stores actually knew this campaign was happening. So people were checking in, walking up to the counter and saying, "I'm the mayor, I get a free coffee." And the barista would look at them and say, "I'm the Queen of Sheba and you're not getting anything free." You've got to make sure that the people who are actually going to execute your campaign understand the campaign, understand what the rules are, understand what the tools are. One of the better campaigns I saw, and it's actually in my book, there you go, that's the one and only pimp you'll get, is for the Capitol Hotel in Little Rock, Arkansas. It's a very high-class, upper-end establishment and did not lend itself well to having Foursquare banners around the place. So what they did is they trained the wait staff to look for people with cell phones on the table, for smartphones. And then they would ask them, "Have you checked in on Foursquare?" And when, as was the majority of the case at the time, because this was a year and a half ago, the customer said, "What's Foursquare?" The staff were trained to give them a quick 15-second spiel on Foursquare and show the customer how to download it, how to set up an account, and how to check in so they could take part in the campaign. No signage, perfect execution, worked really well. What started to happen was they had a lower cost entry-level bar and grill attached to the hotel. Because so many people started to check in, it started to attract the lunchtime tech crowd in Little Rock. That became their hangout because this was a social savvy establishment. So they had a knock-on effect. The campaign that they started wasn't targeting that group, but they attracted a whole increase of customers from a completely different section of the community simply because they had taken the time to train their staff, to use customer service skills, and to teach the staff how to execute the campaign. The other piece of this is, if you're going to do this, and like I said, the third part is the sharing opportunity. If you're going to do this, set yourself up as a place that people want to share. One of the most common things that we share are photos. Okay? Now, if I was going to take a picture of this room, apart from all the beautiful people in the room, what would I take a picture of? Beige walls and, well, okay, there's the sign up there. But I mean, if this were your, I don't know, you're a dentist or something, and this was your waiting room, there is nothing in here that encourages me to want to share. So think it through. We did some strategy for actually a chain of dental establishments. We told them to go to vintage stores and buy unusual products. Buy something really weird and quirky. I wasn't quite expecting the, I don't know, what's this, like a beach ball-sized eyeball. But trust me, you put that in a waiting room in a dentist's, and people will take pictures of it because they want to know why. Why is this beach ball-sized eyeball made of glass in a dentist's? I mean, kind of get it if it was an optometrist, but it's in a dentist's waiting room. So they take pictures, and that goes with their check-in, and now you've got a reason to share, and now I have a sharing opportunity, and it cost them barely like $25 or whatever it was. Low-cost marketing, shareable opportunity. They thought it through. They dressed up their environment. That's the sort of thing that you've got to think of now for social consumer. You've got to think beyond, well, this is our environment. No, it's not. It's their environment when they're here, and you've got to provide social opportunities for them. So what do they share? Well, obviously, we just said they share pictures, but they also share everything else. They share the good, and they share the bad. How many people have actually filled out some kind of rating card, or even online for a product, the little 5 stars? Any market researcher will tell you the 5-star rating system, complete waste of time. Nobody ever gives you a 3. They give you a 1, or they'll give you a 5. They will never give you a 3. And if they do give you a 3, what are you going to do with it? Yeah, I thought your service was average. It was okay. What's that? It doesn't mean we need to improve. Or, I mean, what do we... You get a 5, you know you're doing really well. You get a 1, you know you've got a problem. They're actionable numbers. 1s and 5s are actionable. Good and bad. In fact, if you're going to design a rating system, do it that way. I would strongly advise you. Don't ask people to rate you 1 to 5. Say, were we good or were we bad? If you were good, great. Say thank you. If they say you were bad, do something about it. When I talk about social consumers, I do a presentation on social consumer, and people ask about, how do we get started in social? You want the easiest win at the moment in social is to be one of the 30% of brands that actually reply on Twitter. 70% of brands do not reply when they're spoken to on Twitter. Not good, not bad comments, just they don't reply at all. So if you want to beat your competition, say thank you when somebody says something nice about you, and say sorry when they say something bad about you. You've already beaten your competition. Already in social. There's your social strategy. You can all leave now and go and have a party. Seriously, you are going to beat the competition if you just do those 2 simple things. Monitor everything. Everything that you should be monitoring. How many of you run social presence for your company? A good chunk of you. How many of those are physical businesses? Okay. How many of you run a Yelp page? Very few of you. All the rest of you that don't, that have a physical presence, I want you to do one thing for me and one thing only. When you leave here, go claim your Yelp page. You already have one. You might not know it, but you do, because people are reviewing you. Yelp is one of the easiest entry points into social for any business because it's a system you'll understand, because it's a rating and reviews site. It also happens to have one of the best mobile apps, in my opinion, of any tool. I use it all the time. When I come to a new town, they have a feature within their app called Monocle that I can call up, and it uses augmented reality. Yeah, I always use that word, and everybody goes, what? Does everybody know what augmented reality is? Augmented reality is you hold up in simple terms, you hold up your phone, it turns on the camera, and it overlays information. So instead of taking a picture with your camera, you're looking at information. In Yelp's case, it happens to be Yelp reviews. I can walk out onto one of the streets in Victoria and hold it up, and it knows what I'm looking at, and it tells me, oh, there's a steakhouse there, there's a Mexican place there, there's an Italian place here, there's a Chinese place here. And it tells me when they're open and when they're closed, what kind of price range they're in, and what their ratings are out of 5. I can click on it, and then I can see their full review page. I use that everywhere where I go to find places to eat. But it's a ratings and review site, which is great, and people write good reviews and people write bad reviews. The great thing is you can respond as a business owner, you can respond in public or in private. That's the good part, because when somebody says, hey, I had a great experience at so-and-so, you can go out there and you can say, thank you, I'm so glad, I hope to see you back here soon. And you know what? They will feel good about you, and they will come back. And if somebody says, I had a bad experience, you can ping them and say, how do we make this better? How do we make you a customer again? What did we get wrong, and how do we fix it? And that will give you the opportunity. Now, am I going to promise you you're going to turn every hater into a lover? No. But you're going to turn some of them back because you took the time to reach out to them. So I definitely suggest that you go out and respond. Like I say, use Yelp. But definitely respond to everything. How many of you who are responsible for social marketing are using some kind of social monitoring tool? Okay, good. So you're already seeing what people are posting on Twitter and Facebook and things for you. How many of you are responding to everything? Only, yeah, I saw that. Maybe some of it, all of it, good or bad. Respond to everybody. Unless you are getting 10,000 comments a day, you've got no excuse. Then you have to do some social triage. And that's a whole other presentation. But if you're not at that level, then you should be responding to every single tweet, Facebook post, Yelp post, and everything on social. because that's your opportunity to engage with your customers. How many times when you've attended these kind of sessions have you heard that word, engage? It's trite now. Everybody's throwing it around. Nobody's telling you what it means. That's what it means. It means saying thank you, sorry, let's make this better. So what can you offer as rewards? It goes from the very cheap, like a cup of coffee, cash, which you don't, as a business, like giving out, but consumers love, all the way to the luxury. The problems with them are, so if I were to ask all of you, hey, I could really do with some help in promoting something, if you will agree to go onto Twitter right now and post a link for me, I'll buy you a coffee. Actually, I'll buy one of you a coffee. How many people are going to volunteer? Yeah, no coffee drinkers here. I asked that question in Seattle, half the room put their hand up. Wrong town to ask that in. But as you saw, low engagement. Cup of coffee, really? Seriously? Low motivation as well. That's it? That's all I get? Okay. And low redemption. Even those people who do it don't bother claiming it because they forget. It's not something that's going to stick with them. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, yeah, a cup of coffee was almost unique. It was great. I want to do this. Not so much now. Cash. Cash is king. Everybody wants money, especially in this economy. You have all kinds of issues giving cash to people. Firstly, low loyalty. If you've got to buy their love, they don't love you. They're going to love the next person that offers them more money than you did. So, no loyalty. That's the Groupon offer. It's the race to the bottom. And you are going to lose if you get there first. It hits your margins. You've got to write that off somewhere, and it's going to come out of your margin of your product. And it's a mediocre incentive, honestly. Like I say, if you've got to buy their love, they're not worth having, in my opinion. But the consumer likes it. In the US, we have federal regulations on it now. People have to disclose if you give them cash. As an online writer, if somebody offers me a cash incentive to write about their product, I have to disclose that. If I disclose that, who else am I disclosing that to? Not just my audience. I'm disclosing that to the IRS. That's a great way for the government to monitor my income, isn't it? Yeah, I don't think I'm going to do that. Luxury. I'm still waiting for the outreach from Ferrari. Man, I would do anything for those people for a year. Just give me a car to drive. I'll drive it. I'll say really nice things about it, even if I don't like the car. That's going to happen. It's a high inducement. Yeah, we all want that luxury experience. We all want that velvet rope experience. Who doesn't? Who amongst you have had any kind of outreach from a brand? It could be a giveaway or anything like that. Right, few of you. Makes you feel special, right? You were selected and your friends weren't. Great. Now you've got something to talk about. That's why we do it. As marketers, that's why we do influencer outreach the way we do it. We pick a group of 10 people, and we pick 1 or 2 of those 10 because it makes the other 8 envious. Envy marketing. It's a real easy way of motivating people to like a brand because they want in on the next time, because there's that hint, that possibility that next time round it's their turn. It's how the lottery works. Problem with it is you have to have real-world validation. Because if you're going to give something away that's really expensive and a good part of your business, like, for example, a car, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a Ferrari, you're going to want to know that that person actually completed the challenge, the contest, whatever. You're going to want some kind of validation. You're also going to want a whole slew of earned media and paid media out of that. So a good example of this was Jimmy Choo. Anybody wearing Jimmy Choos today? No? Jimmy Choo did a contest in London very early on, about 2 years ago. And it's still one of my favorites in terms of luxury brands doing a location-based competition. They had a Jimmy Choo representative. The contest was called Catch-A-Choo. For those of you who are not familiar, Jimmy Choo sneakers retail at low end around $600 US per pair. And they were giving away 10 pairs, $6,000 worth. So to a big brand, $6,000, not a lot of money. It's a lot of money to drop on a one-day competition. What you had to do was follow Jimmy Choo on Foursquare and Twitter and like their Facebook page. And they would give clues as to where the Choo representative was going to be next. And you followed them around London, checking in on these places. And if you actually caught the Jimmy Choo representative, you would show them your series of check-ins, and they would give you those sneakers. Of course, after they'd done all the photography and the tweeting about it and posted your picture, which they own, and you signed your waiver and all of that kind of good stuff. But they had real-world validation, and it worked. Those shoes went really, really quickly. Trust me, those shoes went really quick. Because that's a good incentive, and it was fun, and they could tell their friends about it. Hey, you should come with me. Maybe we'll both get a pair, etc., etc. It drove engagement with the brand through location. Another app that I like that has caught my eye recently is called Carzar. Any gearheads in the room? Anybody else like cars? Just me and a couple of us. Okay, a few of you. Somebody who's undecided. Some cars. Excellent. Even better. Okay, so Carzar is really clever because they recognize that 70% of smartphone users share pictures and 25% of smartphone users share their location. So they combined the two. And gearheads love telling people about these great cars they saw. So they came up with this iPhone app where you can take a picture, and it's kind of like, think like Instagram or food spotting for cars. So you see a car, you take a picture, and the app picks up on your location and tells everybody where you spotted it. What's really cool about this is the people behind Carzar is a nationwide retailer of used vehicles. But you don't get that from the app. They did it because they knew their community, they knew the kind of people that came into their retail establishments, and now they have a whole slew of social CRM data about those people. They don't have to pimp to them through the app, and they've built a great community of car buffs around their own app. Very clever. Smart way of doing location.
This is an Airwalk store. And so is this. They are the world's first invisible pop-up stores. Stores that can be set up anywhere at any time. Simply by using smartphones, geolocation, and augmented reality. We created them for the limited edition relaunch of the Airwalk Gym, a sneaker originally made for kids who hang out in skate parks or on the beach instead of going to gym class. So that's where we set up the stores. Because the marketing budget was small, we relied on bloggers to get the word out. And on November 6th, 2010, the stores went live for one day. To get the gym, people had to be in the right location, so they downloaded the Gold Run app, found the store, found the shoe, and bought it. It got a lot of buzz. Airwalk got $5 million worth of earned media, and their e-store had its busiest weekend ever.
Tell me what augmented reality shopping is and why that's going to be a big deal this year.
Augmented reality is pretty rad. For example, in New York City, we've got an invisible store where if you're in the right location and you put your phone up, you can see a whole Airwalk store.
An exclusive product sold to an exclusive audience for an entirely new retail experience.
They're a cool style, and I'm glad they're back, and I'm going to get a pair today.
The Invisible Pop-Up Store. Watch out for the next one, invisibly appearing near you.
That was Gold Run. if you have an iPhone, I really highly suggest you download the app. It's one of my favorite in terms of location apps because it takes the user through the entire experience, from location to product information to sale. Those 300 pairs of shoes, actually it was 300 men and 300 women, so 600 in total, they sold out in one day. And as you saw, $5 million of earned media in one day. Can you make money as a marketer with location? Oh, heck yes, you can. Can you sell product through location? Yes, you can. This is not just a marketing gimmick. This is a viable marketing tool that leads to sales, and it's measurable. And let's face it, how many of you as marketers have ever been challenged to provide the ROI for your marketing campaign? How many of you ever tried to justify it with Facebook likes? Yeah, that really flies with the CFO, doesn't it? Yeah, or a client. If you work at an agency, yeah, we got you 300 new followers on Twitter. Great. That'll keep the lights on. No, it doesn't. But if you can show that you can run a marketing campaign that directly ties back to the bottom line, the C-suite or your client are going to love you. This tool helps you do it all in one. So I highly recommend it. No, I don't have shares in it. I do know the CEO, but no. I'm not pimping it for a reason other than I really believe in it as a tool. Who wants to know how to make things go viral? Okay. I'm a strong believer that the only person who should have the word viral in their job title is a doctor. But if you really want to know the secret, is everybody awake now? Everybody's listening for this one bit. It's the one thing I want you to take away. I'm going to tell you the secret to making things go viral on the internet. Piss people off. Annoy mums. Call them mummy bloggers. Annoy dads. Tell them that they're useless at home and have no parenting skills. I guarantee you, your campaign will go viral. Absolutely guarantee it. Okay, now for the reality check. There are actually 3 things that any social campaign, whether it's location-based or anything else, have to be successful. And I am not guaranteeing you virality. Isn't that a wonderful word? Somebody told me that the other day, that they were going to include that in their spell checker, and I said, only if you've just qualified as a virologist. Seriously, though, 3 things. It has to be fun. Okay, it's really simple. It's got to be fun. Remember what it was like to go to a kid's party with a hat and balloons and Jell-O? It's got to be fun. You've got to have a bit of fun with your campaign. Secondly, it has to be repeatable, like a good science experiment. If it only works for you, how are you going to tell anybody about it? As a brand, as a marketer, as a business, all your customers want to join in. So whatever experience you're setting up has to be repeatable, at least by a portion of your consumers. Otherwise, there's no point in it. And the last part is it has to be shareable. The whole point of this is to plug into the social community. Well, if nobody's going to tell anybody about it, why are you doing it? So, fun, repeatable, shareable. When you look at your campaign, if you can tick all 3 boxes, I guarantee you will have a successful campaign. That's me.